on YouTube. All right, everyone, welcome to the Northern Alberta Invitational wrap-up show hosted by Backbreaker Media, Wincombe Sports, the Wrestlesode podcast, and the Wrestling Rodeo. We're going to get started here as soon as we pay a few bills here, so just stay tight.
Alberta is blessed with a wide variety of high-quality sports, rich with talented athletes and successful franchises in all levels in any sport. We aim to tell those stories. The Win Column Sports Network was created with one goal in mind, providing professional level coverage of semi-professional franchises, athletes, and organizations in Edmonton. We believe Edmonton can stand proudly behind our moniker of the City of Champions. This city has been home to multiple AJHL championships, a two-time WCBL semifinalist, numerous WWE signed independent wrestlers, and many more success stories.
This is Shane, Hurricane Helms.
Hey guys, this is TJ Wilson, aka Tyson Kidd.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is almighty Christopher Daniels.
Stories you can only find on the Win Column Sports Network.
There we go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Northern Alberta Invitational wrap-up show. I know I say preview show up there. I'll have to fix that here in one quick second here. But, technical glitches right off the bat is always a great thing. But I will say that
always
this event here was absolutely spectacular. And big kudos to the Top Talent Wrestling Academy for hosting this event. And also being sponsored by the Wrestling Radio YouTube channel, where full replays are now available. And, of course, Paul sends his regards. Couldn't make it tonight. I heard something about he got ran over by a stampede of Clydesdales. Anthony, have you heard anything about that? You worked with him for the show.
I heard there was some sort of stampede. He had to deal with some sort of beast of the sort, I'm told, but I have no idea. So
now,
unfortunately, can't be here today.
Now, in Paul's lineage, the second individual run over by a hoofed beast, his grandmother, previously run over by a reindeer.
Very sad day. Yeah, Grandma got run over by a reindeer.
Wasn't that a song somewhere?
No,
I believe that was a hit for the Beach Boys, Mike, but we ain't here to talk 60s and 70s classic rock. We're here to talk wrestling.
And, of course, Spencer Love of the Wincombe Sports podcast. Are you about to hand over that championship on your shoulder to Mr. Parrish after Sunday? He keeps telling me it's his now.
Absolutely not. I've got no other way to put it, Mike. Absolutely not. I've got very little to say on the subject. If you guys go back in the annals of history here on the WCSN, you will realize quite factually that the title is not up for grabs officially until we are able to handle these shows again at the WCSN's official home and Edmonton's home of professional wrestling, Beercade YEG. Up until then, Michael, the WCSN Elite Canadian Championship is purely on my shoulders due to the good people at Elite Promotional Marketing.
Definitely some great companies there. And speaking of company, don't forget, if you are in the chat room on Facebook, get your comments out. They're going to be right on the stream here. So shout out to Top Talent Wrestling Academy, Doyle Benson and Mike Doucette for all being on the chat so far here. But guys, when we left off last week, we had a setup of two great semifinals coming up in the Northern Alberta Invitational. You had Orion versus Pride, Jack Pride, and Dylan Stone versus Michael Richard Blaze. Now, we went back and forth on which ones were going to be the more exciting of the both, but we were very intrigued at both matches here. So, Anthony, just a quick recap. What were your thoughts going into both of these? You got the excitement of getting the chance to call this show, so.
It was so much fun. Oh my God. All right. So going into the semifinal matches, I was completely hyped because I knew that both matches were going to be completely different experience and types of matches. I mean, when you've got like a man like Orion in there, you're not really expecting, top rope moonsaults or anything like that. So, I mean,
we'll get to that.
We'll get to that. But yeah, exactly. But I mean, you don't necessarily expect like a lucha libre style match or anything. So when I was expecting out of the Jack Pride versus Orion match was definitely what I got. I definitely got Jack trying to use his intelligence and his ring awareness and his veteran ability in the ring to try to take down the Giant. Obviously, he didn't let up at all when he had a good advantage. But the problem with Giant Orion is that he's Giant. If you give him an advantage, he's really good at continuing to take that advantage. He's got that great intelligence when, you don't stand there, you don't wait, you pick up everybody that you're hurting and you throw them down again because you're super excited to pick them back up and throw them again. And I love that about Giant Orion. As for the MRB Dylan Stone match, I was definitely expecting a very technical match, like a really, like what you would almost say like a showcase of what you can expect to see here in Alberta wrestling. And man, I was not disappointed at all. That match was amazing. I have to be careful with my verbiage here.
It's all right. You're on Backbreaker. We allow a little bit of leeway on those words. So, as Spencer, I'm sure, can divulge here. On your thoughts going into this show?
Man, I quite liked it. I don't know if I can put it in any other way, but it was really, really great, man, for the first time in a long, long time. And I said this last week when we sort of did our midway point pseudo recap preview show. It was just nice to see these guys back in the ring again, getting the opportunity to see MRB, see Dylan Stone, see Pride, see Orion, Taryn from Accounting and Zoe Sager, who, we said again in the preview show last week that were two individuals who were so primed for a great 2020, and obviously, much like anybody else, was sort of shut down a little bit on this sort of thing goes. So it was great to just see people like that back in the ring and to deliver in the way that all of them did, and I say that with no hesitation whatsoever. Each match on this card, much like last week, was absolutely fantastic. I thoroughly enjoyed each of them, and thanks again to Wrestling Rodeo. Thanks again to Wrestlesode. Thanks again to the Top Talent Wrestling Academy. Longtime fans, first-time callers in the comments section. Really, really enjoyed this. I know we're going to break each down match a little bit more individually here, but Orion and Pride was a personal favorite of mine as far as this entire tournament goes. I think that, you brought it up a ton as far as can be said about it, Anthony, but Giant Orion, man, you won't find many better power professional wrestlers out there. And when you combine that with the fact that the guy's got surprisingly quick agility, it's insane to see the damage that this guy can already do, and I'm very, very excited to see the damage that he'll do in the future. And Pride, to his credit, held his own. And then MRB and Dylan Stone, these are two of the best professional wrestlers in Western Canada, no doubt. In Canada, I've got no doubt. In the world, as far as independent wrestlers, I've got no issues throwing their names in the hat. And to see them in the ring again in a bit of a revised role that we saw from Force Pro Wrestling shows, Mike, as I know you can attest to as well, was just cool to see as a fan. So, and then Taryn and Zoe, they tear it up every time. The biggest compliment I can give most matches is watch this match, and that certainly falls in that category.
Absolutely, but we decided before the show we're going to go through each of the matches in the order that they were presented, so it makes the most sense doing that, correct, right, in a tournament?
Who would have thought we'd do things right?
Wow, I'm shocked. Well, let's go to our first matchup here, and that was the Giant Orion taking on Jack Pride. And now, we talked about this match being the proverbial David versus Goliath matchup, with Jack Pride definitely being the smaller man, and the Giant Orion absolutely decimating Sheik Shabazz in the first round. This match essentially, as much as Pride threw everything he could at the Giant had an answer for everything, and eventually you had Jack Pride succumb to that huge choke slam in the 1-2-3.
Yeah, man, I think no, Anthony, I'm going to jump in on this one because I think that when you say a David versus Goliath match, I think that it definitely describes the size difference as far as it goes for this match. I think that anybody really, outside of perhaps a guy like a Sheik Shabazz, maybe the Titan, Andre, those sorts of guys are the only individuals that can really match up with the Giant Orion as far as the size goes. So yeah, as far as David versus Goliath, perhaps that is the case, but I think a lot of people maybe misinterpreted when we were talking about it last week as far as saying that it was a David versus Goliath matchup in terms of skill, and I think that that's not the case whatsoever. Watching Orion and watching Pride, it was far and away a more even matchup than the previous week. It was so great to see Orion come out and really make a statement in the first round. And then in the second round, in a much more even matter, do the same. I think that this was really a statement. I'm really trying to do my best here to not spoil the end results, but I think that this was really just a full-on breakout for Orion. You watch his matches with Jess Youngblood over the last couple of months prior to the shutdown happening. You watch his match with Sheik, just dominates one of the top champions as far as Alberta goes, a Grand Slam champion in the PWA, and then to go out and maybe not show the same level of dominance, but still soundly defeating Pride. I think it was great for him, and that's no discredit to Pride whatsoever. The guy's one of the best professional wrestlers in independent wrestling. I say that with no hesitation, no stoppage of breath, but Orion just had a great weekend. I think this is going to be a huge step forward as far as it goes for him, and this match itself, loved it, man.
Anthony, your thoughts on the matchup?
I thought it was a really well done match. I really like Giant Orion, and I've grown to really enjoy his style over the last little bit. If you listen to my podcast and especially my RCW reviews, every time I talk about Giant Orion, I'm constantly impressed by the man's athleticism for a gentleman his size, and it's constantly very impressive to see the things that he can do inside of the ring. Jack Pride as well. I mean, if you've ever heard me talk about, my PWA reviews, for instance, I talk about Jack.
Yeah, but not his finisher.
Yes, I swallowed my pride on that one. I got it right, and I made my apologies.
You aren't gonna lay it down, man. It's like when Titus O'Neil fell at the Greatest Royal Rumble. Like, yeah, he may do other stuff, but there's something you remember him for the time being.
100%. By the way, Parrish is my champ, just for the record.
You've upset 66% of this conversation by my Steiner math.
That's fair. That's very fair. But Pride, on the other hand, the man is. I speak with him about him in such reverence. He is such an incredible talent. The work that he can do, the character work that he does here, it's the best, in my opinion, that you can get around Alberta. So and that's why Pride was my pick to win this tournament. He is everything you need and everything you want in an entertainer and a professional wrestler. But Giant Orion, just wow, such a powerhouse, man. Like, he is an impressive athlete, and yeah, I couldn't have been happier with this match.
Who'd you call in it?
I called Pride again.
Mike, who'd you call in it?
I called a hell of a match.
I'm pardon?
Before
we get your thoughts, if we can just get to the official prediction. Mike.
You could go back to the old video and check it out. Thank you.
For the record, Michael picked Pride. I picked Orion.
I'll be perfectly frank here.
Okay, Frank.
Thanks, Spencer.
Sorry, man. You're laying them up for me.
Yeah, well, never mind. When it comes to Orion, I'll be perfectly honest. I haven't seen a whole lot of him since I left RCW way back in, I think it was May that I left. He has really grown in the ring in terms of being more than just a power wrestler. And I thought that really was the advantage Jack Pride was going to have in this matchup here, was the speed, the agility, the ability to get around a big man like Orion. But over this past year, Orion has found that second, third proverbial gear and has added that agility to his toolbox. Like originally, he was just a big man that him and Gunnar would get into fist fights in Vegreville. Yes, I do have that video, and I still have to put it up.
Please do.
But at the same time, there was so much more in Orion's game now that wasn't there then, that it floored me how, I don't want to say easy because it's never an easy out in a match like this, but at the same time, it looked like Orion had I'm not going to say a fairly easy time, but not exactly the hardest of times taking out Pride in this matchup. Of course, Pride's going to blame it on Jack, but I digress at that point. But it led to Orion being fairly fresh going into that final. So,
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know what other way to.
You don't want to get me on a tangent.
Well, we'll save that tangent for later here.
Yeah, sounds good.
Our next matchup had Mr. Saturday Night Dylan Stone taking on God's Gift to Wrestling Michael Richard Blaze. Now, in this matchup here, it appeared that Mr. Saturday Night was going to win it early when he hit that Saturday Night Special running knee, but Blaze, I don't know whether it was instinct or just ring awareness, managed to fight his way out of the ring every time he got into trouble. And Stone kept being one step ahead throughout most of this match until he decided to go up to the top rope and got caught. Blaze gets him into the ring. Brainbuster 1, 2, 3, and you can see how devastating Blaze's Brainbuster is. Now, I will go to Spencer first on this one for a very specific reason. Spencer, you have taken that Brainbuster yourself. While we talk about this match, talk about how devastating that Brainbuster really is.
Yeah, man. I think that the fact that I took that and frankly made it through, as far as a guy that has my very, very limited, and I'm trying to choose my words carefully as far as that goes, in-ring experience goes, dude, it just hits you. It absolutely hits you, because the way that it sort of hits, it slides up, so you catch you on the head, and then it cracks you on the shoulder first. So as far as it goes for Stone, like the way that he sort of operates with his grapple game, with the sort of way that he's got a much more, I don't like the phrase, but sort of like a ground and pound style. The way that I described this match, and I will answer your question, don't worry. The way that I sort of described this match was Dylan Stone was a lot more consistent. He was a lot more able to wear down Michael Richard Blaze, whereas MRB was able to hit those big moves. He was able to really capitalize when he had his opportunities, and that is due to sort of the training from TJ Wilson and the opportunity, that he's had to go abroad. But as far as the ability to wear down Dylan Stone, when you don't have the ability to think clearly, you've taken a knee directly to the head, when you don't have the ability to thoroughly grapple that you do pride yourself on, I don't mean to make a pun of Jack Pride himself, but something that is really, really his strength in the ability to wear down any opponent, nonetheless someone that it's so important to do so against Michael Richard Blaze. It's so tantamount to the importance of what Dylan Stone does. Sorry, I'm getting the message here, so I was a little distracted. When Dylan Stone doesn't have that ability, and when you remove his biggest strength, you've got to give the advantage to a guy like Michael Richard Blaze, right? Because when you've got two guys who are so evenly matched going into a matchup, if somebody loses their biggest strength, automatically you've got to give the advantage to the other guy who really hasn't gotten sort of that proverbial disadvantage. I know that MRB came into this injured. I know that that's going to be a disadvantage, but he's had the ability, we talked with him a couple of weeks ago, he's had the ability and he's had the time to adapt to that injury. The way that I'm concerned about it, that he's at full strength, quote unquote, and when you've got a full strength MRB, when you've got a motivated MRB, as I said last week, he ain't losing to anybody most of the time, nonetheless, when you take out somebody's biggest weapon.
Absolutely. Anthony, you recall this match, the ebbs and flows throughout this matchup here, you really couldn't tell who was going to win it.
It was really back and forth. Like every time, and I almost want to say it with the best way possible, but it really kind of felt like an NXT match in that regard. That it felt that at any moment it could have gone in any direction. I really enjoyed how the match started, as you said. Dylan Stone hitting that Saturday Night Special, and MRB just getting to the outside of the ring. That was just kind of like an example of what this match was going to be. There was a lot of very close calls. There was a lot of intense moments and just the most beautiful types of moves. And these two they put on like a serious, like a theatrical performance. It felt like something at the very end when it all finished up. I just wanted to get up and clap because I was so entertained. And I really couldn't give it the absolute credit that it deserves. That this match, like it might be one of my match, it could be my match of the tournament easily, and definitely one of my matches of the year. Like it was such a high caliber match.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it absolutely was. One definitely that I hope we get a chance to see again in 2021, especially once MRB is healed up here, because I'd love to see these two go 100%, both when they're both at 100%.
You betcha, man. Now I've got to give a quick shout out to everybody in the chat room. The Sask boys watching an Albertan professional wrestling wrap-up show. It is always appreciated. It did spark a question. I don't want it to take over, but for the Saskatchewan wrestling fans in the chat room, send them over to me because I kind of want to make something of it. 8 individuals of a Saskatchewan Invitational tournament. Send them to me. You may see them on the WCSN in the near future, but for now, enjoy chatting with us. We enjoy talking to you guys. It's so rare we get the opportunity. Sorry to cut you off, Mike. I had to say hi to my friends. I don't get the opportunity very often outside of the two of you, and I love you guys, but I miss the Saskatchewan fans.
Yeah, big love to the Sask boys. All my Wiener Eater fan clubs out there. My McSugar boys. Love them.
Now, Mike.
I was just going to...
A match I know you're excited to talk about. Or you're going to comment? Sorry, my bad.
Yeah, I was going to comment first that, to see any real good wrestling, you have to watch Alberta Wrestling anyways, so that's why they're tuning in, but I digress at that point.
Hey, be nice.
That is nice. I didn't swear.
They're our target audience.
I didn't swear there. It's about as good as we do. But anyway,
be nice.
Anthony, you mentioned that that match could have been your match of the year for 2020 right now. For me, this next match very well could be my match of the year for 2020. Zoe Sager and Taryn from Accounting. And like we said, it was 2-1 in favor of Taryn going into this match in 2020, I do believe. Correct, gentlemen?
That's what my math was telling me as well. So
I was going to say I had some Steiner math going on last week, so I can't even be 100% sure anymore. But I believe that is what we came to the conclusion on.
I wasn't corrected, so my hope is that I got it.
We'll go. Both Mike and I corrected each other, so we're gonna go with you.
All right, there we go.
Either way, this was a hell of a matchup coming on between two very even competitors, and just the flow of this match, the smoothness between both these competitors. Could you tell that both of these competitors have only been wrestling for 2 years max right now? 2-3 years?
Isn't that insane? Like, isn't that just absolutely insane to think these two have just such amazing talent and charisma? Like, they've just got that something when they're in the ring, you just can't stop watching because they're so entertaining and they're so good.
Yeah. No, I think you guys hit the nail right on the head there. Sorry, Mike, but you guys absolutely hit it on the head. And I think that the coolest part about this for me is both of them came from different backgrounds as far as their training went. Zoe going through the Storm Wrestling Academy, Taryn coming up through Monster Pro Wrestling, Force Pro Wrestling. I think for me, I say it often, but I try and take the opportunity as often as I can. I think it really speaks to just what a great wrestling scene we've got here in Alberta.
Absolutely. Good minds think alike there.
Both of you guys, absolutely. So I'm going to hop in and I'm going to say, friend Kevin Rollin just hopped in the chat room. I know he was over on YouTube. So if you are over on YouTube, you are over on Twitch. We love you guys staying there if you want to watch continue. But you want to participate in the chat, hop over to facebook.com/Backbreaker Media. We're hanging out here. That is where we will primarily see your comments. We really try our best, but I'll be honest with you. If it wasn't for Mike, we wouldn't have any of this. And even he's trying to monitor 3 comment sections. So
Well-
there you go.
We love Mike.
Spencer in the
With a mad raging passion.
well,
A lot of mad raging things.
simply
Grow
put,
up, Anthony.
No.
I'm gonna I'm gonna get you guys back on track here in a second, just so you guys know. I'm monitoring the YouTube chat room for anything that comes up. The Twitch, sorry, I don't have enough computer space. I did buy another monitor.
I'm trying to help you out.
And Spencer, you got the Facebook covered along with the screen here. So, but anyway, let's get
Here's the head that wears the crown.
Let's get back to this matchup here, and this went back and forth. Zoe looked like she was going to hit her Z factor near the end to get the victory here, but then Taryn pulls out. I believe you called it crunching the numbers, Anthony.
Yes, it's called Crunching the Numbers. I 100% confirmed that, so I love that as a name.
For people that don't know, it is basically TFA's version of a Widow's Peak.
Yes.
And that's what got her the victory in this matchup. Sorry, Spencer, you were going to ask something there?
No, I was going to ask you to describe it. It was cool.
Fair enough. Anthony, your thoughts on this matchup before I get into my opinions here?
Oh man, I just get so excited for the women's division that we have in Alberta. Like, I have to start off by just saying that I can't think of another women's division around that is more entertaining. And I'm pitting that against any top wrestling promotion, in my opinion. NXT, AEW, doesn't really matter to me right now. Alberta women's wrestling is the top. And these two are great examples of like just the best of the best that you can see here in Alberta. And as Mike already said, these two have wrestled for approximately 3 years or less combined, 3 years each. It's amazing that they're as good as they are. And I feel like, you know, they've got such great character work. I really love Taryn from Accounting for that. She's got absolutely, in my opinion, the best name in Alberta wrestling, probably my best name in wrestling. There's something about it, her theme song, her whole package. I'm a huge fan of Taryn from Accounting. And Zoe Sager, like I've spoken about her accolades like in numerous times because she literally is the epitome of wrestling and women's wrestling here in Alberta. It's having these two, having at least, you know, this 3 matches, 2-1. Yeah, it's 3 matches so far. 4-1. Yeah, exactly. Sorry. 4-1. 3-1 now. It's just in 2020 has made me so happy. Like, and if COVID wasn't here, I can't imagine how much amazing wrestling we would be seeing out of the women's division in Alberta because it's peaking everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We could get into the women's division as a whole here at the end of the show because that's going to be part of one of my questions that's going to be coming up to wrap up the show. But this match here, in my opinion, if you're going out and watching shows like WWE Main Event, like this looks like a match that just came straight out of Main Event. Like one of the both these wrestlers are just on the peak of greatness, for lack of a better term here. They're just about ready. They just need a little bit more experience to get to that next level, as well as looking at getting some more competition outside and some more exposure outside of the Alberta area. I know Anthony, Paul, you both are working hard to on the podcast level getting the word out on these wrestlers, and Spencer and I are hacking it out on podcast and video as well. But watching this match here is a prime example of what you can expect to see whenever you see Zoe Sager and Taryn from Accounting in the ring. Like, when you watch a women's match, even as little as 5 years ago, you would cringe a little bit in a match just based on a certain move or a little botch here and there. Could you really tell if there was anything here in this matchup?
Not at all. No, this was such a solid match, and I think it proves spades just how good the education level in Alberta wrestling is because, like you said, they come from 2 separate backgrounds, but their fundamentals for both of them are so strong. Like they know how to fall, they know how to throw somebody down, they know how to work the crowd. It's insane just how comfortable they are in that ring. Like they feel like they're decades of experience between the two of them, and to know that it's like less than 6 combined, crazy.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, man. And Anthony, to build off of that, the thing that I really loved about this, and any time that these two face off, really is like, and I guess you can really say this about any Albertan professional wrestler, to be honest with you, just with sort of the way that a lot of them have been trained over the last little bit, is all of them have a very evident strength. You know, with Taryn from Accounting, her power game, even in the Albertan women's wrestling scene, is pretty well second to none. You know, you look at her, you look at Angelica, you look at like a Kat Von Hees, and it's absolutely insane just what they bring to the table. Zoe, on sort of the flip side of it, you'd say she's got sort of the more athletic background. She's got more of sort of the I guess traditional wrestling knowledge, sort of the more, again, ground game, ground and pound from there. But none of them are weak in any area. And I think that's the thing that really makes this match stand out, is you can't say that Taryn absolutely dominated Zoe with her strength, because Zoe's tough as all hell too. And you can't say that Zoe went out and absolutely dominated Taryn with her wrestling expertise, though Zoe does have it, because Taryn's got it too, you know? So I think when you've got two individuals like this who are not only able to build off of each other's strengths, but really play off of each other's also strengths, for lack of a more awkward way to put it, because that's as awkward as it gets. I think that they were very, very well matched. I think that the both of them really allow each other to shine anytime that they step in the ring. I think that that statement can really be applied to a lot of the women in Alberta. And Mike and Anthony, you know, I think once we get to talking about this match specifically, I'm just echoing a lot of thoughts you guys have already said. I think it was really, really well done. I really like seeing Taryn pick up the victory. If my math's correct as well, I think that Taryn, by this point, has now already eclipsed all of her career wins up to this point. And I could be wrong on that again, too, but when I first interviewed Taryn, she had only picked up her first win. And that was right before Clandestine Society in December. So, again, my math may be incorrect here. I am going off the top of my head. But to see sort of the vast improvement in Taryn off of where she already was, I think that's really cool. I think she needs the specific shout-out on that one as well. And Zoe's one of the best in wrestling. You hear me put her over. You guys do. Michael Richard Blaze does. I think it's a matter of when, not if, she's handed a contract.
I agreed 100%.
Without a doubt. And like I said, we can get back on the women's wrestling scene here in a bit. But let's go to the final. We had Michael Richard Blaze and the Giant Orion. Now...
Hold on. Hold on. Mike, who'd you call for the last match?
You're lucky I don't mute your mic, Spence. Seriously.
That's fine. If anybody wants.
Actually, let me correct you right now. I absolutely did not call a winner on this because I did not actually comment on exactly who was going to be in the final when we started talking.
Oh, was this the patented winner is you, the fans cop out? I mean, line we always use.
Yes.
Excellent. However, the winner was us, the fans, to be quite honest with you. I'm not going to steal your spotlight here. I think that just needs to be said. Mike,
but to be more specific, the winner was Spencer. To be specific.
To be specificer. If we want to be specificer, well, yes, Spencer is the winner. I officially am very, very gooder at making picks.
Either that or you know people, one or the other, because this was filmed earlier, so... I won't go there on that one. But this match here, if there was one person who would know how to chop down a cherry tree or a giant oak, known as
Abe Lincoln.
Well, Michael Richard Blaze would be that guy to do it here in the wrestling ring. And
wait, wasn't it Washington? Sorry, I'm going to correct myself on that. Washington chopped down the cherry tree, didn't he?
Yes.
Yeah, yes, you are correct.
Thank you. Apologies to our history buffs in the comments section.
We don't have any...
Sorry, Luchasaurus.
There's no Americans. There's no Americans in the chat room right now, but they can talk about it later.
But just quick comment here. Sorry, Kevin Rowland jumped in. Number one, not a belt. It's a championship.
Hold on, Spencer. If he wants to know your comments about it, he can go back to the beginning of the show and watch it on replay. We'll just leave it at that. Now this match, I'm sorry, I'm upset. this match here, like Michael Richard Blaze did everything he could to take out the Orion, like vintage offense out of Blaze. But in the end, a 7-foot moonsault, like this is like Brock Lesnar going off the top rope, and we saw what happened to him when he tried to do a shooting star press. But the Orion hits this moonsault perfectly and gets the 1, 2, 3 in the championship. Spence, let's get your thoughts here.
I mean, the height is unteachable, but that moonsault certainly, obviously, was. It was so cool to see, man, and I keep mentioning it. I've said it a couple times. I said it off the start, and I really don't want to repeat myself, but this, for me, was really a statement made by the Giant Orion. I mean, you look at the individuals that he went through, and I can't count the championships, but off the top of my head, I would have to assume you're looking at upwards of 10-plus championships between the individuals involved. I would hazard a guess you're looking at something like 6+ years of championships, and those are just estimates. I could be underestimating as far as I know, as far as that goes. And Orion goes through all of them, and I think that's a huge check mark as far as it goes for the resume on the Giant Orion's end, you know. Sheik Shabazz, I mentioned a couple of times, but it goes without saying, a PWA Grand Slam champion. You look at Jack Pride, a CWC champion, a CWC Cruiserweight champion, if I remember correctly, just one of the best professional wrestlers out there. How else do you say it? And then Michael Richard Blaze, I don't think it's any secret as far as it goes, you know. If he's not the standard, he is certainly one of the brand standards as far as Albertan professional wrestling goes, as far as Western Canadian professional wrestling goes, you know. I love the comparison of sort of like a final boss in professional wrestling, you know what I mean? You look at Miko Sakamura over in Japan, like, you know, you beat her, it means something. And maybe Michael Richard Blaze hasn't been wrestling for 30 years like she has, but, you know, as far as the Albertan scene goes, I have no hesitation making the comparison, of him being the Albertan final boss right now, you know? For Giant Orion to come out, not just beat him, not just have some sort of a fluke victory, which has happened before, let's not get it wrong here with anybody, but to come out to decisively beat Michael Richard Blaze, to handle the best of the best in professional wrestling that this province knows, and to pull out what he did, like, man, you made the comparison, it was one I was going to make. If Brock Lesnar hit that moonsault at, or the shooting star press, I corrected myself, the shooting star press, like, what kind of history are you looking at for him? Is he just a power guy, or is he like flipping like freaking Lindsay Dorado? You know what I mean? Giant Orion just hit a moonsault. I think that's insane. I have no other way to put it. The guy is massive. He is a genuine 7 feet tall. He is not a skinny 7 feet tall. There is some muscle weight behind that 7 feet, and the guy is doing flips off the top rope like he's Juventud Guerrera. It was terrific. I loved it. I was very excited about this match, and most importantly, I was excited about me winning. I win. I predicted this.
And speaking of being corrected, I want to thank Top Talent Wrestling Academy for jumping in the chat room before I opened up about it.
My apologies. Thank you.
Dylan Stone is the current CWC Alberta champion, and Jack Pride is the former CWC Alberta champion. And ironically,
I apologize.
Ironically enough, that match that essentially took 2018 to the next level for that Alberta championship is coming up this Tuesday on the Backbreaker Media YouTube channel as part of the show. So there's
who knows, man? Maybe I was just getting it wrong to give you an opportunity to plug it. We'll never really know, right? Never let the truth get in the way of a good story.
Well, never be surprised when I could have plugged something. Never mind. That's just going down a hole that I don't want to go with.
You're not half the man I am. You don't have half the brains that I.
Back to this matchup here, Anthony. You're calling this match. You're watching these two go at it. MRB is unloading absolutely everything, and then you see that moonsault. What's going through your head?
So if you go back and watch the footage, I see him do the moonsault, And I see him pin MRB, and all I really could do was make like a weird breathless whimper sound because I was so, my mind kind of exploded in that moment. It's kind of like when you're walking down the street and then suddenly, like, I don't know, the world explodes and you go, what just happened? It kind of felt like that a little bit in my head because first off, I could not ever have expected Giant Orion to go up to the top rope and hit a moonsault so beautifully. And I also could never have really expected Michael Richard Blaze to have lost in such a decisive loss. I mean, it's MRB. Like, Spencer just spent all the time talking about exactly why it's MRB is essentially the final boss. You don't walk into a video game or anything and go up to the final boss and just smack him down and walk out. And that's kind of what it felt like.
Yeah, you ain't wrong. Now, Kevin and Drew, of course, we are always plugging mojitos over here in the comments section. Leave us your favorite mojito recipe or come and deliver a mojito to my place. I have no way to repay you for it. I would just love one and don't have the ingredients.
You need some more salt.
El Salte.
Kevin's actually got a real good point in the chat room there. Just imagine your chest caving in with a 7-foot moonsault coming down on your chest.
Yeah, that's a great way of mimicking it.
And this happening to a man who already has a torn pectoral muscle.
Yeah, and I was gonna make the point earlier, but it just simply can't feel good. Like, there's no other way to put it. It's terrible. There are many reasons that I would never step into a professional wrestling ring for like a full-on wrestling match, and a 7-foot dude doing a flip on me is definitely on that list.
So congratulations to the Giant Orion for winning the inaugural Northern Alberta Invitational tournament. Now, we have to give a special shout out to the Top Talent Wrestling Academy here and some of the things that they have been doing with this pandemic going on. They're still finding ways to get people in there and educated in the sport of wrestling. Spencer, do you want to break down on some of that?
Oh, yeah, man, absolutely. And I think that, I brought them up earlier in Monster Pro Wrestling's training school, and I brought up the Storm Wrestling Academy. I brought up Force Pro Wrestling, no discredit to any of those institutions, but you see what the Top Talent Wrestling Academy is doing right now. I think that it's so important, whether you're here, Saskatchewan, Timbuktu, independent professional wrestling, wherever you are, man, like, again, I'm not someone who's going to get in the ring, but my recommendation for anybody getting into any combat sport is to be trained properly. And at least for myself, there may be differing opinions. If you go through the training and it's simply not for you, that's anybody's right. But you look at the individuals, the Top Talent and the individuals there have brought in, Heavy Metals training there, Red Thunder, you've got Marky, you've got Dylan Stone, you've got Michael Richard Blaze, you've got the Omen Gabriel as a physical trainer, which, and when I spoke to him, I sat and picked their brains on just what the role of a physical trainer was as far as a pro wrestling school goes, because, again, no discredit to anywhere else. You make do with what you've got, but this is really the first time that I've heard of bringing in somebody specifically to be, let's work on the body, let's work on the physique, let's make sure that you take care of yourself the way that an athlete should. I think that stuff like that's so important. You mentioned the seminars that they're doing. It's not like they're doing seminars with myself. They're doing seminars with guys like Ethan Page and Victor, and I believe it's Hotshot Johnny Devine showing up this weekend. It's so cool to see the individuals coming out, individuals that we've all seen from the outside are very successful in professional wrestling, not just independent wrestling, professional wrestling, and getting paid money to do it is a goal, I think, of anybody, whether you're watching this, whether you're participating in Anthony. I think I speak for yourself and myself and Mike in this. Like, I think the goal is to be paid as a professional wrestler. To do so, you've got to be good at it. To get good at it, learn from the best. To learn from the best, at least right now, tune into what the Top Talent Wrestling Academy is doing.
Well, to that point, the main reason I'm bringing it up for people, if you're watching this and you're an aspiring wrestler or already a trained wrestler, if you want to participate in some of these online seminars that they're doing every Sunday right now to help out people during the pandemic, contact the Top Talent Wrestling Academy and like Spencer said, this weekend they're bringing in former TNA star Hotshot Donnie Divide.
X Division champion.
There you go, Spence.
See, I can get championships right every once in a while, Dylan Stone.
And also we got another academy down in Calgary as well, right, Anthony?
Yeah, it's really interesting. Basically, if you want to be a wrestler in Alberta, you've pretty much got like a north, central, and south, because you got the Top Talent Wrestling Academy up north, you've got the Workhorse Performance Center in Calgary, and then even PPW down in Lethbridge has their own training school as well. So you learn from people like Sidney Steele and Kyle Sebastian, and like that. Wow, the amount of talent you have learning all across Alberta is insane, and that's literally without even Lance Storm here.
Shout out to Bulldog McBain helping out with the training academy out in Lethbridge here. But the last question I want to bring up before we wrap this up entirely here is, what do you guys want to see next in terms of something like this, like a Northern Alberta Invitational? Anthony, I'm going to go with you first here because I know Spencer's got a couple ideas. I want to get yours in first.
Because Spencer already took a deep breath and was prepping for his answer, jerk.
Just other things I would love to see.
In terms of something to do during the pandemic here, you see these, you're going to see a lot of lost matches. If you could come up with another tournament, what would you want to come up with?
All right, this is going to be a really fun one, but because there's no real live wrestling coming on right now, this is what I'd be really excited for. I would love to see promotions remake their wrestlers inside of like a wrestling video game, like a 2K20 or even better, a 2K19.
Hold on. Before you continue,
I was going to say, I know that this kind of exists. So what I'm trying to say, it would be really cool to see the full-on promoters doing it straight into their promotions here in Alberta, and seeing maybe even some basic or like spin-off storylines kind of a thing based on actual wrestling storylines happening.
Well, it is. They are actually working on a little bit more here, but Monster Pro Wrestling does have their Virtual Madness on every Sunday at 7:15. You know you can't have it at 7 because, you know, Alberta wrestling shows never start on time. So, but with that, they've actually generated their own caricatures in wrestling, and they're actually pretty damn close. So if
Dad Bod Squad represent out there, man.
Well, right now, currently, Rick Jules is the heavyweight champion. If you guys want to check it out, the Backbreaker Media Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Backbreaker Media, simulcasts all their shows, which come up every Sunday at 7:15. So
he also dethroned Blake Cannon, if my brain is correct. That's how that works, correct?
Busty Blake Cannon. Let's just.
Sorry.
You were there. You know what it's about. So, Anthony, you gave your idea. Spencer, what do you got on there?
Me, man, it's such a cop-out answer, but I am just craving new professional wrestling outside of the major promotions, for lack of a better way to put it. It's really, really nice that independent wrestling is so widely available right now. But as far as Albertan specific or as far as Canadian specific, I really don't know. There's a couple of ideas. I think that they've done a really, really good job over in Ontario of doing Canada versus the USA. The Canusa tournament is always fantastic. I'd love to see something like that. I know it'd be a little difficult, but maybe you do like a Survivor Series tournament with countries. Maybe you do Canada versus the world, given where we are right now. Maybe you do run a Saskatchewan tournament. Maybe you do run an all-women's tournament. God knows we've got the talent here to do it. A tag team tournament. Tag team wrestling is just underappreciated everywhere, no matter how well a promotion is doing with it. Like, you even look at AEW right now, I think they do an okay job with their tag team scene. I really, really think any promotion can afford to do better, with it. Let's do it here in Alberta. I don't know, man. I'm just spitballing at this point. I want new professional wrestling, whatever iteration it ends up happening in. I'm going to be stoked. I really, really am going to be stoked.
Well, I'm going to be straightforward here, and I'm going to bring up some realism. Unfortunately, I might sound like a bit of a downer when I bring some of this up, but hear me out through this whole thing here.
None of it's happening and everything is terrible.
Well, that too, but we're honestly looking at 2021 to be the first shows with fans included. Let's just call facts facts. Until there's a vaccine there, honestly, we can't look at 2020 being any time where we're going to have fans in the stands having shows. However, wrestling is included in what's considered in Alberta as a phase 3, so it will eventually open up before then. There is a possibility where we could open up without fans, where guys like yourself, Anthony, Paul from Wrestling Rodeo, and ourselves could get involved. Why not have a Southern Alberta, Northern Alberta tournament where you have Anthony, you and Paul can take care of the southern area down at the gym in Calgary, and Spencer, myself, we can handle the tournament in Edmonton. And folks, I don't care if it's intergender, I don't care if it's tag team. I would kill for a women's tournament. I would actually murder kill for a women's tournament if need be. Dylan, if you're in the chat room, yes, I did. You can quote me on that if you want. But folks, 2020 is going to be the year where you're going to see all the wrestling up on the YouTubes, the VODs, and whatnot. And there's a lot of stuff there. So.
Yep. At least it is accessible. Excuse me as I stutter over my words. Indie Wrestling TV does a great job. Backbreaker, I'm obviously going to put you guys over any chance I get as far as Alberta and the Canadian professional wrestling scene goes. Power Slam TV, Progress has picked up shows from the province before, so like anywhere that you can get your independent wrestling fix, there are so many great options to do so, whether it is like, even if it is just looking up matches on YouTube. So much great shit on there, man. Like at the very least, we've got the content there. Whatever new content we can get, like I said, man, and I'm sure you guys are in the same boat. I'm not picky. I just hope it happens.
Absolutely. And it looks like it's about time we're going to wrap this up here. We've almost been at it for an hour here, so it seems to be quite perfect here. Speaking of new content, Anthony, why don't you plug yourself and what's coming up with the Wrestlesode podcast?
Hey, all right, yeah. So I've got an interview with Dylan Stone coming out. I'm like 2 days late on it. I'm really sorry about that. Life gets in the way sometimes. But I have an interview with Dylan Stone.
Life comes at you fast.
Yeah, it does. It's coming out within the next 12 hours, so stay tuned for that at the Wrestlesode podcast. I'm also having an interview with Taryn from Accounting tomorrow, so I'm really excited for that. So that'll be coming up probably sometime this weekend. And as well, I've had an okay from the Giant Orion to sit down and chat with him. So I just once again need to iron out a little bit of a time to be chatting with him. And I'm really excited to be talking about, a little bit about what happened in this tournament and a little bit about their careers and finding out a little bit more about Taryn from Accounting and Dylan Stone and, of course, the Northern Alberta Invitational winner, Giant Orion.
Okay. Just going through the chat room here really quick. I got a feeling Dylan's taking control of the Top Talent Wrestling Academy Facebook page.
He always has. He's their chief brand officer.
Yeah, but I see hashtag blank your aunt Anthony.
He's in there.
It happens. I can't help it. Life happens. This is life.
Okay. So
I don't want to get into that any more than you guys already just did.
Let's get right off of it right now. Spencer, since I got this nice slide coming up here, you want to talk about what we're doing tomorrow here up on the YouTubes, the Twitches, and the Facebooks?
Well, if you guys are on the WCSN network, the WCSN network, that's like calling Brad Bannock. If you are on the WCSN tomorrow at this time, you will be watching myself and above average AIDEN Adams for my third live interview that we've got going as our recent series on Facebook Live goes. So it's not just here, much like tonight's video. If you want to get in on the comment section, either get your questions in early or hop in here on Facebook. It's the best place for both myself and Mike to see him and make sure we pay attention to everything. I hardly pay any attention at all. So this is the best place to get me to pay that little modicum that gets me to read your questions. Very, very excited for that one. We were looking it up. It's literally been 1 year and 2 weeks since him and I last sat down for an interview. So lots has happened since then. He's worked at the Saddle Dome. He's won the tag team titles twice. Lots in between. So very, very excited for that one. Mike, do you have another slide for all the other hashtag such good shit we got going on here at the network in the next little bit? Or am I just going to talk?
Well, you know what? Let's have you talk about what podcast you have coming up, because I only got the videos coming up because, frankly, you sent me out the memo and I didn't read it a whole lot. So go nuts.
No, that's okay. It was a fairly long memo because as much as I am in dire need of a haircut in the next little bit, I am not in dire need of great guests on the show. Kevin, I've already interviewed some referees, but I would love to interview more. So if there are any who are looking to hop on, Mike, I've spoken to you. Ben Oman, I've spoken to him. So you're probably the only one I haven't spoken to. I've spoken to Houston Moore. So that's on you, bud. However, in the next little bit, I've got some great interviews coming up. If you're watching right now, you can head to the WCSN, wherever podcasts are played. I've got an interview with Quinn Hawksley that came out today. That one was really cool. I love talking to people early in their careers, and she's someone who I think has a bright future in it. So lots of great stuff from her, both inside and outside of pro wrestling. This Friday, I got to do it because they start the podcast every time. I'm bad at it still, but I'm very, very excited. My first ever chat with Chris and Patrick, the Voros twins, two very, very cool individuals, real Canadian wrestling fans. I know you'll be familiar with them, but the ECCW Tag Team Champions, they've been down working for Beyond, Defy, and a whole lot more. They were actually over in Europe before this whole pandemic shit went down, so it was cool to talk to them. Really, really great on that one. I'll let you guys know on my Wednesday interview here when I give my final word on the show, because that one is cool as all hell. I've also got Richard Holiday coming up on the show next Friday, MLW star. He works with the Dynasty. I know you guys have heard from him from me. He's coming up. Joseph Samael. I'm really, really stumbling today here, guys. Sorry, I got a lot of great stuff coming up. Ken Stevens, Barricade,
victory
Mo
years.
Jabari's coming on the show. Holden Albright's coming on the show. Kat Von Hees is coming on the show. And because you guys have waited through all those interview announcements, my second ever WWE interview coming up next Wednesday on Conversations with Love. Tyson Kidd joins me on the show. TJ Wilson, the trainer of Michael Richard Blaze, Brandon Van Danielson, Alex Plexus, and a whole lot more. You guys cannot miss that one, and I say that as humbly as all possible, but tune in next Wednesday. That one was an absolute blast. He had some great stuff to say, not only on WWE, but on the wrestling scene right here in Alberta. If you want to keep up with that, though, Mike, do you know where they go? Do you know where they go?
The WCSN.ca?
Yes, they head to the Win Column Sports Network, your source for previews, reviews, breaking news, and interviews in the Albertan wrestling scene. So head to our social media, head to the podcast channels, wherever podcasts are played. Stay up to date with the latest and greatest from the Albertan professional wrestling scene.
And speaking of the greatest from the wrestling scene, let's get to what's coming up on Backbreaker Media here, because Spencer got through a lot of stuff there.
Right? And that's just me. I didn't even get through Monday Night Shaw. I didn't even get through Inside the Crew, Duncan Duma, and all of the great content we've got here on the network outside of the professional wrestling sphere.
All right, well, now it's my turn to plug. Coming up tomorrow, we have the Above Average Visit with Aiden Adams. And then coming up on Saturday, our latest edition of CWC Evolution. That's on the YouTube channel. On Sunday, make sure you check out the Virtual Madness by Monster Pro Wrestling, simulcast on the Backbreaker Media Twitch channel. And then on Tuesday, May 19th, Kane Day of all days. Sorry, I can't see Spencer, but...
I tried to cue the lightning effect that you gave me, but I couldn't do it.
That figures. We are going to have what is...
The guy who runs this site should give us a bigger budget, hey?
Yeah, well, if you guys listened to the last Conversations with Love last Thursday, I spent all the budget on Ferguson on the fight, and you saw what happened. So
we also talked about the budget on last week's show.
But coming up this Tuesday, we have the epic 30-plus minute classic between Pride and Dylan Stone up on the CWC Evolution show on YouTube. And that currently is the last show that I have available. I'm frantically trying to get some more content ready to go here, but I'll have a little announcement about that coming up in the upcoming weeks. I've still got one more month. I'm just about done of CWC. Then I might come up with some other stuff here to hold you up. I still got 2 more months after that, but this stuff takes time to edit. What can I say? But
I have such an appreciation for you now, by the way, Mike. And I had 1 camera.
yeah, for these current shows for CWC, I have 5. So, yeah, I get your feelings. So, but
Oh God,
guys, I think this is going to wrap it up for the Northern Alberta Invitational. I enjoyed this so much. I'm probably going to go back and watch it again this week because it was just a fantastic. And these were just thrown together matches, just put together as a tournament here. So, but Anthony from the Wrestlesode podcast, I want to thank you for joining us here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here on Backbreaker Media. Every time, it's always like I'm just getting together with my best friends. Let's just be honest. That's what it feels like.
Aww.
And Spencer.
wow, shit.
Wow, Anthony,
I really should have given you more shit about being late on that podcast.
That was my heel turn right there.
And Spencer Love, once again, thank you for joining me here on this little wrap-up show I decided to throw together for us for the last month here.
Hey, man, happy to do it. You know me. I love Alberta Wrestling. I love you guys. I love working for Backbreaker Media. A proud member of the WCSN. It's always a blast to do this stuff. It's always a blast to talk to you guys in the chat section. I hope that you guys all join us tomorrow for the above-average conversation. I'm sorry, I almost called that what we called last week's. Thank you for joining us for our above-average conversation today. Join us for our above-average conversation tomorrow with the above-average Joe, AIDEN, Adams. I love seeing you guys in the comments section. It's always appreciated. Hope you do so tomorrow. Mike, back to you.
Well, there is one more guy that couldn't make it tonight, and just remember, folks, check out the Wrestling Rodeo wherever podcasts can be found. He's got vintage wrap-ups and conversations about former Stampede Wrestling months and stars. It's a great podcast, great to listen to. As well, check out their YouTube page. They're starting to simulcast a lot of those shows on the YouTube, as well as hosting the Northern Alberta Invitational there. So, but I think that's finally going to wrap it up here, guys, after we tried to wrap it up once already here. So, Anthony from the Wrestlesode podcast, Spencer Love, Win Column Sports. This is Mike the Ref saying thank you for joining us on this journey through the Northern Alberta Invitational.
Alberta is blessed with a wide variety of high-quality sports, rich with talented athletes and successful franchises in all levels in any sport. We aim to tell those stories. The Win Column Sports Network was created with one goal in mind: providing professional-level coverage of semi-professional franchises, athletes, and organizations in Edmonton. We believe Edmonton can stand proudly behind our moniker of the City of Champions. This city has been home to multiple AJHL championships, a 2-time WCBL semifinalist, numerous WWE-signed independent wrestlers, and many more success stories.
This is Shane Hurricane Helms.
Hey guys, this is TJ Wilson, aka Tyson Kidd.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is almighty Christopher Daniels.
Stories you can only find on the Win Column Sports Network.